The Roaring Knight is a fraud. Or at least that's what most of the community thinks, with the introduction of Chapter 5 not helping his case in the slightest. Up until this point in the story, all he's been doing is dunking on kids and people who weren't paying attention. And the moment he fought someone as fake as him, he revealed his true darkened colors. He had to cheat to avoid the real statistics that would befall him. So now, let's actually try and give our most hated cocky aura farmer a real matchup. One up against
the will of God.
And we'll be using Gabriel, the strongest angel in heaven, to just maybe prove once and for all that the knight isn't a fraud. Let's start off with the knight scaling, since Deltarune was more recent and relevant. The main argument for the knight being a fraud is he only uses his power in cutscenes when we can't fight him. And when we can fight him, we can surely kill him if he doesn't initiate a cutscene, although it being very hard. And another point to counter it being very hard is that the knight is fighting the Chapter 3 Lighteners, so he really is figuratively and literally dunking on kids, as we are a whole lot less experienced with the battle system than we would be in, say, Chapter 7. That isn't to say he's not technically weak. I think his only feats of strength are in battle and outside of battle. Inside of battle, being able to two-shot Susie, although it being argued he was holding back. And outside of battle, he is able to put up crazy damage numbers against the people not expecting it or are actually weak anyways. See, in Undertale, when you fight an enemy that's sparing you, or by that extent, not attacking you, and you attack, it is always a one-shot, something that could explain the Tenna situation, not to mention he survived anyways. I wouldn't even think the knight would be holding back on an attack like that. He was pretty mad when Tenna betrayed him, so that's also something to keep in mind when he did that much damage. Defensively, the knight is a little bit more sound. They can tank quite a lot of raw damage as seen in his fight, with the battle ending when you only get him to 3/4 HP, but the same could be argued with Gabriel. The knight does seem to value dodging rude busters though, so that is something to keep in mind with this cheater. But here's where it gets interesting. I honestly don't blame the knight for cheating away these stats here, but it's just feeding into what the community was already suspicious of the whole time, that the Chapter 3 stats they used against us, like the swoon, were probably cheated. And by that extent, maybe even the Chapter 3 defensive stats were altered, but that is a lot less likely. Speed-wise, the scaling is still as shaky. Most people chalk him up to being faster than light because he caught Susie off guard, but I really don't think that was the purpose of this scene. Plus, if he was actually faster than light, he wouldn't have outran his own perception when racing Flowery and hit a flippin' wall. I personally don't think the knight scales that high, but there is a good case here for his attacks being faster than light. That's really about it. I could go over the IQ and battle experience of the guy, but there's basically nothing here. The knight's actions sometimes seem so instinctual and non-human that there has been speculation the knight is just pure darkness or an amalgamation, because there is no evidence supporting otherwise. I'm not joking when I say to you probably one of his only battle IQ upscales is running away from the Fun Gang and Gerson by summoning a Titan. Well, that and faking being defeated so he could cheat Susie out of our win. If that even was a fake. By the way, now would be a good time to clarify that that is something the knight wouldn't be able to do against Gabriel. They are on an equal turf where they're not in a dark world, but the knight gets to have all their dark world feats and abilities. So the knight can't summon any more titans Gabriel already has to deal with on a daily basis. Anyways, there is no battle experience, except us, Chapter 3 Lightener teenagers in which 2 of the 3 of us are holding back, which is precisely why most of the time this is a dog walk for the knight. So there truly is no one the knight has fought to ever compare to the possibly cheated stats he possesses. Therefore, he has no one to actually make him better. I would put Flowery here, but fighting against a cheater while being forced to use cheats back doesn't sound like anything useful against Gabriel. So at the end of the day, I'd feel like chalking this guy up to town level plus is generous to how shaky his feats are, although I'm not opposed to seeing him small city or city level for how good he did against the Lighteners. Now it's time to formally introduce his opponent, a true powerhouse that could truly give this so-called fraud a run for his money. The Will of God, the most powerful angel in heaven in Ultrakill, the true avatar of hate from above. Now, Gabriel's feats are a lot more concrete in the lore and does have a lot more of them compared to the Knight, albeit some being weaker. Take him defeating Sisyphus, the Leviathan, or even fighting V1 for that matter. The former two would likely put him on multi-city block level, but being able to keep up with V1 should put him higher, possibly small town, but that's a stretch. Speaking of keeping up with V1, Gabriel should be a lot more durable because of the massive damage output of the machine, able to go up against and beat low tier gods. Apart from that though, there isn't much scaling to his defense unless we assume V1's damage output is stronger than the Fun Gang's, which is most certainly true. Although a huge plot point in Ultrakill is the verse actually being very weak, and this is easily demonstrated by how V1 is able to kill everything. Speed-wise, he's a little bit more powerful, him being massively hypersonic due to his fight with V1 and casually being able to generate sonic booms and keep up with V1. He is able to throw his swords and be fast enough to catch them, so there's that. Battle IQ and experience is finally where we can get this guy a leg up against the Knight. He's easily smarter than the Knight as he has been shown to stomp uprisings by quick dropping, identifying weak points like on the Leviathan, and I guess there could be some argument of him identifying the corruption in the council. And for his battle experience, all the foes I just listed are part of his battle experience, plus him supposedly fighting thousands of machines before V1 came, and then also fought him twice. But there is something I've not told you guys yet. A fear that awakens in the shadow of the Knight's heart. V1 can survive getting hit by a black hole. That means Gabriel's offense would already be short of star level if he is even able to damage V1, which he is. And as much as I don't like it, the game specifically specifies that that is a real black hole, despite it not doing anything to the terrain around it. But even ignoring that, it gets worse. There is a huge chance Hell is out-reversal and has only been more confirmed with the release of Fraud. See, since stuff like Gluttony existing inside the corpse of King Minos and non-Euclidean geometry existing inside of Fraud, and God not being able to unmake Hell, this all implies Hell is on some sort of out-reversal, cosmologic scale that theoretically all things in Hell should possess some power of. And if the Knight's path wasn't draped in shadow enough, this technically isn't even religion scaling. If we were to do that, Gabriel is somewhat on the stellar level. So, at the end of the day, this fight's winner depends on what you believe in, but the odds are more so stacked in Gabriel's favor. For the Knight to win, you would have to assume firstly, under all those fake stats lies a person with real power, and assume Gabriel has no black hole or out-reversal hell scaling. But that doesn't mean the fight wouldn't be tough. Even if Gabriel was expecting the attacks from the Knight, he would still hit harder than all of the machines Gabriel has fought except for maybe V1. So I'd say it's a mid-diff for Gabriel and a mid to high diff for the Roaring Knight. So yeah, I'm sorry my Deltarune fans. It seems after all of that we were not able to break the strings of the fraud allegations and finally become free. But if you did like this cool matchup, you can subscribe for more matchups like this or join my Discord to personally debate with me if you didn't like the outcome. Well, I think that's everything. Have a wonderful day.